Is your child reluctant to try new things, or perhaps point blank refuses to try new things, or maybe tries new things but gives up at the first hurdle? If your child is struggling in this way, you may also be struggling as a parent to know what to do. In this short video, I'm going to show you how you can encourage your child to take those steps and move outside their comfort zone. I am Dr. Hester Bancroft. I'm a chartered psychologist and I've worked with literally hundreds of parents to help them build their children's resilience and independence. So the first thing when we are looking to encourage our children to try new things is to point out to them their behavioural patterns. You as a parent are in a unique position of understanding how your child functions out there in the world. You will have noticed things about their behaviour, you'll have noticed their way of doing things. One of the things that's really helpful for us to take on board, for all of us, is that most of us are what we call 3-time convincers. Once we've done something 3 times and we've lived, it becomes part of our comfort zone. So if you've noticed, as you may well have done, that your child, after doing something a few times, then relaxes, becomes comfortable, and even perhaps enjoys whatever the activity is, then this is a really key thing to point out to them. So even if they've never done a club, when they've gone into school, they may have had what I call a September wobble, been worried about the new teacher, new classroom, maybe new children coming in. And you might have seen after a few days, they settle. They get their place, they know the routine, they know what they're doing. So that's a really good example of where we see our child and the behavioural patterns and we can point it out to them and say, you know, I've noticed that actually when you do something new, whether it was that club or whether it was going into a new school year or whatever it was, I've noticed that actually once you've done it a few times and you found your feet, you're okay. So that's a really important message we can give to our child. You might also have noticed things that helps them to be okay, and that's a really good thing to share with them as well. So now I want to talk to you about the comfort zone and how we can help our children to expand their comfort zones. If you think of 3 circles, the inner circle, another circle out there, we're going to look at the comfort zone in the centre, the next ring out, the next circle out is known as our stretch zone, and the next circle out is our stress zone. We all need to have places that are in our comfort zone, places where we feel totally at ease. So for our children, that will be their bedroom, it'll be their home, it'll be school if they've been there for a while and they're already settled into their new class. It'll be friends' houses where they've been and they know that the mum doesn't just serve green food. So anywhere where they feel at ease and they can just relax and enjoy themselves. So for all of us, that's our comfort zone, very important to have, but the important thing to recognise as well is that if we don't expand our comfort zone over time, we start to feel unchallenged, bored and unfulfilled. And if we stay there all the time, we start to feel quite depressed. And interestingly, if we never stretch our comfort zone, over time it gets smaller. So we want our children constantly stretching their comfort zone, going out into their stretch zone. Before we talk about the stretch zone and how we get our children to step into it, we need to understand that the stress zone is where most of our big goals in life are for all of us. And what we can't do is jump straight from our comfort zone out into our stress zone. If we do that, we turn around, run back into our comfort zone and stay there for quite a long period of time. So what we want our child to do is recognise what is in the stretch zone. And these will be the things that are manageable, but a little bit uncomfortable. And when we go into stretch zone, we have what we call low level fight or flight response. So our heart will race, we'll be aware of our blood pumping around our body, we'll have butterflies in our tummy, and we'll feel a little bit apprehensive, but it does feel manageable. So by doing things, by whatever it is that we want our child to do, or our child wants to do, what we do when we have those is we have the experiences, we expand, we do it 3 times, or if you are a crazy 1-time convincer, you do it once and it becomes part of your comfort zone. But we help our children to expand their comfort zone and really understand those feelings that they're going to have and that they're okay. So a good example of the comfort zone is a roller coaster. Remember taking your child on a roller coaster at some point, or maybe you yourself. When your child's queuing up for a roller coaster, they'll be very apprehensive but excited. They want to do it, they're motivated to do it, but they're feeling, oh, look at it, it's doing all these crazy things, it goes upside down, it goes fast, whatever it is that they are seeing and observing. They do their queuing, they get on, they do the roller coaster, and very often, because we get a buzz when we go into our stretch zone, they will come off that roller coaster, they'll go, it was amazing, I want to go again. And you as a parent who's just queued up for an hour is thinking, not again. Anyway, the interesting thing is once they've gone on it a few times, they will be ready to move on to the next thrill. They'll come off and say, let's go and have a look at that, let's go and do that. So they won't want to go back on, and certainly if they did it 50 times, they would start to feel quite bored of doing it. So that's a good way of understanding the stretch zone, but applying that to something that our child wants to do and might be facing but be worried about. Let's look at, for example, I'm using an example of the Year 6 residential trip, which most children go on in most schools in the UK. So that for some children will be in the stress zone. It will feel too much, and they'll start to feel too much maybe at the beginning of Year 5. So they will start to be aware that it's looming, they'll have heard about it, maybe people are talking about it in the playground, and they might be concerned about it. And the way that we help them is to get them to recognise they need to take steps in their stress zone. And using this example, it may be, for example, very helpful for them to begin with go and stay at grandma's without you, or at a close relative without you. Somewhere where they feel comfortable but they haven't done a sleepover before. They may even need their siblings the first time they go, and then go there on their own after that. And when they've done each of these things, each of these steps a few times, and they become part of the comfort zone, you move on to the next step. So after that might be, for example, having a sleepover with a friend that they haven't had a sleepover with before, and maybe even staying for a couple of nights with either grandma or the friend. So this is a collaborative approach. You work very much with your child. What do they feel the steps are that would help them to feel comfortable, so that all the time they're stretching their comfort zone, and so that big goal, what was a big goal in the stress zone, is then just one little step away and very manageable. So that's how we can really use the comfort zone well, working collaboratively with our child and helping them to understand the importance of constantly stretching and expanding and enjoying stretching their comfort zone. I hope you found that helpful. If you have, you might like to take a look at my website to see other ways that I support people. My website is www.effectivesteps.com. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.